gonna try to keep this video short. I'm gonna talk about two things, and that is fake reflection in 2019 and Blender cycles. So first we'll check fake reflections, and so if I use delta for this robot guy, T800, then you'll see it looks like that. And even though I got image roll on, it just doesn't really include that for the delta one. So I mean it includes it, but as you can see the reflection just looks funky. So for cartoony reflections it's really a no-go. So what I did was I use standard instead. Then I went into the bump map, added a procedural turbulence, so we got this fine noise here. So just use these settings, and that will create a fine noise pattern. So you can see when you hook that in, you'll see that the reflections are blurred out. So turn that off, and it looks like that. Add a bump map, and it looks like this. The problem with that is you can see the samples are 40. You gotta have lots of anti-aliasing samples for it to, well, smudge out those bumps. And so that's one thing. It's actually not the worst thing, because, well, you would have to, it would render, it would take a long time to render anyway, but kind of like the bad thing about upping the samples is that, well, you'll up the samples for everything. So if you have motion blur on, then, well, you can expect extremely high render times. But alright, so that's it for fake metal in 2019. The next and last thing I'm going to talk about is LightWave 2019, the render versus Blender cycles. And I can't get the LightWave render to, well, match with the cycles one. So if I have, even though, you know, this is an extreme example with lots of samples, but so even though I have like just samples of 8 here, and so forget about this bump and stuff, but even 8, and then I put on motion blur, and even with the subframes of 1, it's gonna take forever to render, especially with fiber effects. It's just not gonna look good. So I will have to, I mean, the render time in LightWave versus Blender is going to be twice as long, and that's without GPU. If I add the GPU in Blender, then, you know, it's going to be like 3-4 times faster. So I'm not satisfied with that, and I'm wondering, am I doing something awfully wrong? Because I mean, even, you know, even with very low settings here and here, even with this off, and even with this at 3, I mean, it's just way slower compared to cycles, and that's not cool. So, and it's a shame, because there are, even though with plugins it's great, so take LightWave with plugins, for example. You got advanced placement, which is fantastic. You got rig it, which is fantastic, and there's nothing really like that in Blender yet anyway. So I would like to do everything in LightWave if possible, but, you know, how can you compete with a render engine that is twice as fast and if you add the GPU, well, it'll be twice as fast as again, so it's gonna be like 4 times faster, and we're coming up with a new cycles renderer which is called eCycles, which is twice as fast as cycles. So I mean, do the math. So how can I compete with that, with the cycles render engine? I did post on the New Tech forums and asked if cycles in LightWave was a good idea, and 95% said yes, it's a great idea, but we'll see. Probably won't happen, but hey, Santa Claus might be real. But like I said, I can't really compete with the cycles render engine in LightWave. It's just, there are a lot of really nice things in the new 2019 render engine, but as far as render speed, nope, not even close. So am I wrong about that? Did I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of other people, or some other people, reach the same conclusion. So it's kind of like hard when you have another render engine that will in the end render 3 times faster. Yeah, I don't know. So feel free to state where I'm wrong about that.